reality.
They're not where you think they are, and they're moving around, much faster than we can actually detect them.
A variant with a vengeance.
We need to do more. The virus is fast in learning how to trick our system.
Is that enough to get a sense of how prevalent the variants are?
This is the $1 million question.
I remember being 13, 14 years old and seeing Black people on stage that made me believe that it was possible.
Actors and brothers Shamir Anderson and Stefan James are two of Canada's brightest talents.
Shamir and I were seeing much of the same problems, not only in Canada, but all over the world.
There's not enough places to celebrate Black excellence.
Hello and welcome to The New Reality. I'm Dawna Friesen. The world didn't know what to expect from the novel coronavirus when it first emerged more than a year ago. Now we don't know what to expect from its much more transmissible variants. The virus is constantly a step ahead. The variants, which have rapidly evolved, are evidence of that. We do have vaccines now, which is a remarkable achievement, but the variants are infecting people faster than the vaccines can be rolled out. And there's evidence emerging people who have recovered from COVID-19 can possibly be reinfected with the variants, which means though case numbers are on the decline in Canada right now, it could be the calm before the storm. Even where the roads run out, the race is on. Here, deep in the Amazon rainforest of Brazil, these nurses are delivering precious COVID-19 vaccine, bringing hope in a second deadly wave of the pandemic to a region still haunted by the first. Thank you, says this woman, one of the first to be vaccinated here. Her relief is real. Few places have been hit as hard as the state of Amazonas. A new, highly contagious variant is driving another massive surge in cases here. There are alarming signs it could evade the immunity of those who have already recovered from COVID-19. And it's one of several variants of concern that could change the course of the pandemic everywhere. Downriver, in the capital city of Manaus, no one thought the virus could strike like this again. Hospital corridors teem with COVID patients. Too few beds, not enough staff. Relatives forced to find scarce oxygen tanks. There are never enough. One hospital ran out entirely. Patients began to suffocate and die. Thalita Rocha's mother-in-law was one of them. There's no more oxygen in the entire health unit, she says. So many people are dying. Hospitals are now turning patients away, sent home to be cared for by family. Others left on their own. Without oxygen, they die where they lay. What defies belief is the intensity and ferocious speed of the spread, a variant with a vengeance. It was thought the devastating first wave 8 months ago, which is believed to have infected the majority of people here, should have produced herd immunity. Yet this sudden surge in sickness is even worse. And these mutations are spreading across the globe.
The discovery of a second major variant.
About the new variant of COVID-19.
That the coronavirus is evolving is not unexpected.
There are thousands of variants of the virus out there in the world. So the question becomes, what makes a particular variant a variant of concern?
And what allowed them to evolve so rapidly? The first genetic sequence of the novel coronavirus came from a sample taken from a worker in the seafood market in Wuhan, China. That seed has grown, branching out into a family tree. The more people the virus infects, the more it replicates. Over time, genetic changes occur, creating new branches known as variants. Most variants are of little concern, but 3 have emerged with advantages, allowing them to thrive and outrun others. They were first detected in the UK, South Africa, and Brazil, and what makes them extraordinary are the number of mutations they've acquired at once. and all three possess the N501Y mutation. It affects the all-important spike protein, the key that opens the way into healthy human cells, making these variants up to 50% more contagious.
Most patients have no idea how they got the virus, and that's a general trend.
Back in Canada, at Toronto's Humber River Hospital, COVID cases in the ICU are slowly receding, but Dr. Jamie Spiegelman is wary.
Some patients have really minimal or no symptoms, and some patients are so sick that they die within a couple of hours of coming to hospital, no matter what we do for them.
He knows the threat from variants is looming.
It's way more transmissible and contagious, which is concerning because we know the original virus was very contagious to start off with.
A few floors down, the hospital lab is hunting for variants. Staff are working around the clock, processing hundreds of COVID PCR tests each day.
It is very detailed, very detail-oriented. If you miss something, if someone isn't up to date, things will not get done.
Their target, a missing gene that could be a red flag for the UK variant.
Any sample that tests negative for the S gene and positive for the other two, we forward to provincial lab for sequencing of the UK strain.
It is critical work, the first step in a sophisticated genomic surveillance system. All suspicious samples are sent on to another lab in the Canadian COVID-19 Genomics Network, a nationwide alliance of government and university labs.
Science that is serving the community.
Dr. Catalina Lopez Correa is executive director.
I think we're now a bit on a race between the vaccine and the virus.
Genomic sequencing, mapping the entire genetic code of the virus, is the only way to find the variants of concern. About 5% of positive COVID tests in Canada are being sequenced. So far, they've detected cases of all three highly contagious variants in Canada. Is that enough to get a sense of how prevalent the variants are in the population?
This is the $1 million question. We have been working with modelers, mathematicians, statisticians to get to the right number. We need to do more. It will be important to do more sequencing to really get a detailed information on what's happening with this virus. And not just in Canada. The virus is fast in learning how to trick our system. We need to be fast in learning how is the virus moving and how is the virus evolving.
There is no time to waste. Ontario is now screening all positive COVID tests for variants. In Barrie, Ontario, an outbreak raced through this long-term care home. All 129 residents were infected and 70 have died. The majority of the infections are believed to be the UK variant. Dr. Terry Snuch is with UBC's Michael Smith Laboratories.
The more people that are infected, the more people that are going to be hospitalized, and unfortunately, the more people that will then die.
The virus thrives when we move around. It needs human hosts to spread and mutate, yet there is no consensus among countries about how to restrict travel.
We're looking at really every measure that's been implemented by every country.
Professor Kelly Lee at BC's Simon Fraser University is part of an international group analyzing travel restrictions. How do you think the conversation, the thinking, the strategy about travel restrictions has evolved from the beginning to where we are now?
So at the beginning, way back in January, February, the received wisdom really was that travel-related restrictions don't work. And WHO put out the recommendation that countries should not adopt such measures. As this pandemic has unfolded, we've seen that actually there are some situations where actually it can work.
Life in Australia and New Zealand is largely back to normal thanks to tight border controls and strict lockdowns when even a single case emerges. Most of Canada opted to flatten the curve, aiming to suppress, not eliminate the virus. It's led to thousands of deaths and rounds of restrictions. Now, with the rise of the variants, there are calls for a new approach.
The Canadian Shield strategy is an effort to start thinking a bit more strategically about where we're going, what's the end game.
Carolyn Colane is an infectious diseases modeler at Simon Fraser University.
It would be to get cases low soon, as soon as we can, and then to do the shield. So that means support reductions in transmission by doing innovative things in rapid testing, by taking border measures to stop introductions. We want to be reopening. We want to be getting people back to what they need, getting back to a social life.
Professor Lee believes Canada's latest restrictions, including stopping flights to the Caribbean and Mexico, are half measures.
The new variants, what we know about them is they're circulating globally. They're not where you think they are, and they're moving around, much faster than we can actually detect them.
She wants tighter controls, including on interprovincial travel.
Those new variants didn't swim across the country. They didn't walk across the country. They moved with people. And so we have to really recognize that that's one of the causes. And I think these new variants are actually almost a new outbreak. We're like almost back to January 2020 again.
The virus is evolving in real time, and there is much uncertainty about the impact on vaccines and immunity.
So the virus basically learns how to play with your immune system and start to evolve and transform and create these mutations to escape your immune system. And that's what is really concerning.
In the anguish of Manaus, a father mourns as his 19-year-old daughter is laid to rest. There is a warning for the world here. Even when the worst seems to have passed, this virus can roar back in new, evolving forms.
This is a wake-up call to all of us that we will be dealing as the virus uses its devices to evade pressure, particularly immunological pressure, that we will continue to see the evolution of mutants.
And the nurses are back on the river. In the race to deliver vaccines, we need to buy time by maintaining or tightening public health restrictions. Otherwise, the variants could outrun us.
Do you think the virus is still winning at this point?
Well, it's quite an intelligent virus, I will say, and it's really where we're seeing with these three variants. We spent an entire year basically with no variants of concern, and in 3 months we have already 3 variants of concern. That shows that the virus is basically learning and moving.
Coming up on The New Reality.
Think about the stories that haven't been told.
Gentlemen, right here together. But why did you and your brother feel the need to start the Black Academy?
We didn't want to, continuously be lost in this perpetual loop of, Canada not recognizing and supporting, their Black talent.
Canada has long prided itself for its film and television industry success. But for thousands of Black creatives in this country, that success largely has not included them. A lack of support and opportunities in Canada for homegrown talent has led to a deficit in Black representation both on and off screen. As Kayla McLean tells us, 2 Canadian brothers are stepping up to fill that gap, creating opportunities for the next generation of Black talent here at home.
Gentlemen, right here together.
They've walked the Oscars red carpet and starred in Hollywood blockbusters. Actors and brothers Shamir Anderson and Stephan James are 2 of Canada's brightest talents. But before the 2 were featured in big box office dramas, Shamir and Stephan were 2 kids with big dreams and dedication, a quality their mother instilled in them as they grew up in Scarborough. In 2006, it was here at Wexford Collegiate, Shamir's old high school, where he learned 2 major things.
So how do you make out with the music teacher, huh?
The first, about his love for acting. The second, that a journey in Canada as a Black artist would be an isolating one.
Growing up, I realized that there wasn't a lot of examples of Black excellence on the national stage. And the school really showed me that if you can work towards something, you can achieve it.
Wexford is known as a performing arts school, accepting some of the best talent the Greater Toronto Area has to offer. Anne Merriam was the school's artistic director at the time and recalls being completely taken by Shamir's talent and drive.
Shamir is actually relentless. He hears no, he goes, what? No? What do I need to do to make it happen? This is a man who believes in vision, a man who believes that anything is possible.
It was a trait the now 29-year-old passed on to his younger brother, Stefan, who during his youth could be seen in the audience of Shamir's plays.
Shamir was fierce. Like, he was taking care of Stefan from the get-go. I know he drove him to interviews and to auditions.
I remember being, 13, 14 years old and, seeing Black people on stage, seeing my brother on stage just blew my mind. It made me believe that it was possible, that it was attainable.
Deputy Marshal Dawes, happy birthday.
Soon after graduating in 2010, Shamir ventured out into the acting world, his younger brother Stefan following close behind. Their talent was quickly recognized south of the border.
Walter, hi.
Look, I need to talk to you about something.
From a Golden Globe-nominated performance in Homecoming to roles in If Beale Street Could Talk and Selma, 27-year-old Stefan has been taking the silver screen by storm. Shamir has earned impressive roles in films like The Destroyer opposite Nicole Kidman and in Bruised, Halle Berry's directorial debut. But with all the success and accolades garnered in the U.S., the siblings say they were left with an unsettling feeling they couldn't shake.
4 or 5 years ago, Shamir and I were seeing much of the same problems that we see today, in terms of just there being a lack of support and celebration and recognition of, Black artists doing incredible things, not only in Canada, but all over the world.
So making real, lasting change became the motivation for the brothers' next act, the Black Academy. Launched in December 2020, the Black Academy is a platform to elevate, foster, and showcase Black Canadian talent in all areas, ranging from arts and culture to sports and science. Recently, the brothers announced a partnership with Insight Productions to create Canada's first Black-focused award show, celebrating both Anglophone and Francophone talent.
But why did you and your brother feel the need to start the Black Academy?
We didn't want to, continuously be lost in this perpetual loop of, Canada not recognizing and supporting, their Black talent. I think that, Drake's a big example of that. He almost had to get love from some guy in New Orleans before, Canada said he was cool. And to us, that's just not okay.
There's not enough governing bodies, infrastructures, places to celebrate Black excellence. I mean, when Black people slip and fall, we see that all over the news. It's very rare we get to hear the Pinball Clemens of the world who are doing incredible stuff.
Very little data exists on Black creators both behind and on the screen in Canada. But the stats that do exist paint a troubling picture. Racialized and Black communities make up about 22% of the population in this country. But according to the Black Screen Office, in the history of television broadcasting, only 5 shows led by Black creatives have made it onto Canadian television.
Think about the stories that haven't been told. Think about the people with the talent that we haven't seen because of this patriarchal society that didn't see our humanity, that didn't believe that our stories mattered.
Jennifer Holness is an award-winning Canadian writer and producer. The 20-year veteran who now sits on the Black Academy's board says a long history of systemic racism upheld by white industry gatekeepers have shut out Black Canadian creatives.
What does systemic racism look like in the industry?
Oh gosh, I mean, look, the entire industry is permeated with systemic racism from jump. Every place, every part of it. We were told that if we wanted to get more funding, we should make a Canadian story. That's systemic because they're saying that a Black Canadian with Jamaican roots who wants to tell a story that develops a broader world, that is not a Canadian story.
Please join me in honoring my little brother.
The lack of opportunity was painfully evident for Stefan at the Canadian Screen Awards in 2019, where he received the Radius Award, an honor given to a Canadian who's making waves globally.
I was left with sort of a bittersweet feeling after I left that stage thinking, man, I may be, one of a handful of Black individuals that's gonna be able to stand on this stage tonight.
Having an organization like the Black Academy support and nourish Black talent in Canada heightens profile, creates avenues for more work, and creates a star system because this is show business and it's fed by stars.
No justice! No peace! In the months following George Floyd's death, with protests and renewed cries for racial equality raging around the world, Companies, including in Canada, were taking note, pledging their support on social media to root out anti-Black racism within their industries.
People were maybe paying attention for the first time, maybe there was just nothing else to do, but they finally heard us.
Looking back now, 8 months later, do you feel that those promises are being kept, or is it all lip service?
Now, here's the thing. I actually think that change takes time. So when I see the gatekeepers changing, and when I see real money invested, then I will say unequivocally, yeah, it's changed.
According to Shamir and Stefan, the much-needed financial backing for the Black Academy is still proving hard to get. Outside of the Canada Media Fund, no other organization has stepped up to pledge their financial support. As for Stefan, investment in the Black Academy means ensuring Black Canadian boys and girls get to see what's possible and have opportunities and support to chase their dreams. The same inspiration he got from watching his brother.
I can't tell you how many times, I've been on the streets of Toronto and somebody would be like, oh my gosh, we played Jesse Owens, like, you're from here? It makes the idea less of a crazy one when you're able to see someone who comes from where you come from and be able to take it, as far as me and my brother have taken it.
Next week on The New Reality.
This is a humanitarian crisis that we're dealing with. Lives are at risk right now.
Access to water is a basic human right. I'm an Indigenous person. I have the right to basic human rights.
Doesn't matter how many billions and millions they spend on Indigenous projects, the underlying model remains broken and they don't seem to want to fix it.
Enough is enough. I want to be able to turn on my tap and drink the water.
That is The New Reality for this week. I'm Dawna Friesen. Thanks for joining us.